our last record on Sony, and frankly, I thought they were diabolical, absolutely hopeless.
Sound like you really
tell it like it is.
Well, I could go far, but I won't for the purpose of this meeting today. We really didn't feel comfortable. We didn't feel that they handled the album well, and they're as big as any of the major labels. So this time we looked at our options, and the first people to approach us about the record independently were Apple, and that said a lot to us, that they had made the effort to come and say, well, what are you doing with the record? And it was very appealing. We like to try to do things a little differently than other people. So being big fans of Apple generally, we thought that was a good place to start. But then we also wanted to make a physical release with the CD and vinyl. And so we started looking for the right partners. We did speak to some of the major labels, but it didn't make sense. I think they're still living in a world in the past. And the independent labels are able to move more freely and offered more interesting deals.
The major labels were not sure about that. They thought we'd given the album away. We think what we did with iTunes was create a great story around the album that now, as we deliver it as a physical release, we've now got this terrific story, and we've got our fan base out there that are familiar with, you know, at least 9 songs of the album and feeling really excited about it. We feel it hasn't taken anything away from the physical release at all. We feel it's added to it.
And now we've got a relationship with edel here in Italy and in other parts of Europe as well. And so far, they've done a great job, right? We did, I mean, most of the file sharing is leaks anyway. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true.
Well, the way our record did actually end up on the internet, we did very well to protect it until quite late. But then a journalist in France actually leaked it to the internet. And obviously, as artists who've created something and you want to have a proper launch date and you want it to be available to your fans on one particular day, it was disappointing that somebody chose to do that. But there's not really much you can do about it. I'm amazed we managed to keep it like that for that long. But we do know who he is.
Blacklist.
Oh, I send the voice around. Yeah, I think it's responsible to take action against things like that.
A return to the more experimental, the musically. I think it's more pioneering for us. It's more. We were braver with our songwriting on this album. And that's something that Mark really facilitated. He wanted to return to that style of the first 2 albums of Duran Duran and Rio, which he felt were much more ahead of the game than some of the albums that followed it, certainly the third one. And it's for me, it's got more musical risks on it. The songs are they're not square. There's things like there's no end chorus in Runaway, Runaway. Or was it?
Be followed, yeah.
Wasn't that tonight?
Wasn't there one?
It was an art project, really. We sit in a room together and we look at each other and say, what should we do today? And it's a blank canvas. It's not how do we make this like something else we did. I mean, ironically, with the new album, it probably does go back to the roots of the first 2, which is something we haven't done before in the last 3 decades. But I think we are always looking for a way to reinvent and a way to keep ourselves excited by it. Because I think if you do produce new music that you can then go out and play live around the world, that's sort of what keeps the whole thing moving.
Which, you tend to find yourself doing all the time, listening to what's new and what's happening and what's trending, and thinking, oh, well, maybe we need to go down that road, and maybe we need to use that producer or go down that style. And I think if the 4 of us never heard a new record, again, we'd still have albums and albums and albums inside of us already without listening to another modern record. And Mark just, you know, just turned the focus, and we just drew on what we already had inside us, you know, as opposed to, you know, seeing what was in the charts and checking out that cool sound or whatever. And that made a pleasant change.
He was aiming for like a 9-track album, and we at the time when we finished it, we realised we had 12 of it. We had 12 that went on iTunes, and then we had a load more stuff. 9 on iTunes, and then we had a lot more stuff, and we continued to work on it because there were so many good ideas that didn't make it onto the concentrated album.